Hey folks, what's up? It's Tobias. If you've been keeping up, you might know what day it is today. If not, welcome to my tea day. It's my tea birthday today. That means exactly a year ago I started testosterone. Back then in the form of patches. Now I'm taking injection form, and if you're curious about that, I've talked a lot about it in previous installments of this vlog, so feel free to check those out. Um, I will put a link in the comments to a couple of ones that talk about that. Um, I can't believe it's been a full year. If you'd said to me a year ago that I'd be where I am today, I wouldn't have believed you for a minute. With that said, there have been some new physical changes. There are some others I wanted to recap, and some social changes as well, just since I posted my last video. Also, yay for not waiting 2 months in between videos. I'm hoping that this is evidence I'm getting the hang of this updating continuously thing. Also, my little cat here says hello. Hello, little cat. This is Rose Quartz. Yes, she is cheerleading for me on this auspicious birthday, this testosterone birthday. So, a couple things that are happening for me right now. My period appears to have stopped. So, I've talked about this in previous episodes as well, where I wasn't really sure how I would feel if my period stopped, or even, it took 11 and a half months for that to happen. So I wasn't really sure it was going to happen, frankly. The doctors, everybody said that it would be pretty immediate that the periods would stop. And that was not the case for me. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty weird to be without my cycle. I'm so used to those changes, just the cycle of that, pun intended, monthly. And I'm a little concerned about what that means going forward. Because my period took so long to stop, I take that to mean that estrogen was still pretty prevalent in my system up until it dropped enough that it stopped happening anymore. That might be some shitty bro science. Please correct me if that's completely off base. But now that my estrogen appears to be suppressed enough that my periods aren't happening anymore, it kind of raises some questions for me, like what kind of changes are going to happen differently now, if any, in the next year that haven't happened until now. Maybe that includes body hair. Maybe that includes like more body composition changes. I'm not really sure. Unfortunately, for a good 6 months of my transition, I was pretty sedentary, which is a sanitized way of saying that I was in bed depressed a lot of the time and unable to rouse myself to do anything, let alone work out, unfortunately. And so that has led my body to look a certain way, unfortunately, which I have mixed feelings about. Wondering if now with this change, that's going to start sort of changing and resettling as well. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll see where that goes. I have started working out a lot more. I joined AIDS Life Cycle, which is scary and super out of my league, and also bound to be a really fun time. It's a 545-mile bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. So wish me luck. I'm doing a hell of a lot more biking, running, and lifting weights than I was in probably the entire previous 9 or so months that I've been here. Nearly 10 months. Another thing that's been happening is my voice is kind of out of whack. This is gonna sound familiar, I'm sure, to other transmasculine people, or just generally anyone who's been on T, that there's a period of time that your voice just kind of sucks and doesn't want to behave, and maybe it cracks a lot, or maybe it doesn't crack at all, but just like singing sucks. And I am heavily in that space right now. So, hence why I have my iced tea right here. This guy is keeping me good company. My voice really sucks for singing right now, and I'm not happy about that. And I'm hopeful that it's just a sign of things to come, like once my voice settles the fuck down a little bit, or perhaps with some vocal training, that it will come back and I'll be able to articulate it a little bit better. It does still crack sometimes, which is always fun. I try to laugh about it when I can. And Primarily, those are the physical changes that have happened since my last videos. Just my voice being ugh, and my period stopping. Other than that, there have been some social changes, some pretty significant ones actually. I'm out sort of now to my mom, which is not something I really wanted to have happen, but here we are. And it happened pretty um, organically as possible, honestly, with my mom. It's a long story. But basically, she was drinking some wine one night and she sat on the floor and she was feeling very activated, she said to me. Um, and she said, "Are you still my daughter?" And I was like, whoa, the number of minefield, like, landmines in that question is astronomical. How do I even approach this? Like, what does that mean? Am I about to get disowned? Like, and so what I said to her, I think I asked her for clarification. And I don't remember if I specifically said I'm non-binary to her. I definitely didn't list her my full, like, identifiers. But I may have told her that I was gender fluid. I don't know. It was kind of a blur, frankly, because I was so scared and amped up. And I was like, there are so many different ways this conversation could go, and I'm not really sure which one to be planning for right now. But it turned out to be okay. She asked if I use they, them, and I said yes, I use they, them pronouns. What she asked me, the text of her question was, "Are you they?" And I was like, I use they, them pronouns. Use they, them pronouns for me, please. So in that conversation, she made an effort to change that. She still doesn't call me by my name. And I'm pretty sure she doesn't know that it's legally changed at this point. Um, and it's really frustrating. It's like if my dad and stepmom's reaction is down here for like mediocre, lukewarm, quasi-accepting reactions, she's like a step above that, but she's definitely not she's not fully accepting. And the name thing is just one of those. Another is she's hung up on this question of how does she refer to me? In the sense of when she thought I was a woman, a cis woman, she would call me her daughter. Now that has changed, but if I were a binary man, like a transgender man, she would call me her son when she's like talking about me to people. She seems very much opposed to calling me her kid or her child, which is what I've offered her, by way of gender neutral ways of telling people how we're related. And she just refuses. To her mind, a child is a child and indicates young age, and I am not a child. Even though I was like, but I'm your adult child, that is my relationship to you. If you had more than one, we would be your adult children. But so that's kind of evolving and frustrating. And, within that, though, it was very interesting. I learned that her great-grandfather, it turns out, is also named Tobias, which I had no idea about when I chose this name. But I feel pretty grounded, even more so, in having that name, since it connects my various identities together even more, which is pretty cool. Hey. Let's see. Another social thing that's been happening, I've kind of touched on this in the past, but it's just that locker rooms and bathrooms have become difficult to navigate. And particularly locker rooms. Usually I can find someplace with a gender-neutral bathroom, or I pass enough that if I just power walk into any bathroom and power walk out when I'm done and just don't really spend a lot of excess time in there, then most people don't really bat an eye. So that works out, sort of. The way I've been doing it is that I feel weird and uncomfortable, like being in the women's locker room. So if I'm with my partner, I'll go with her. But if I'm not with my partner, I will go into the men's room. And as long as I follow the cardinal rule of look at nobody and look straight ahead and do what you came to do and get the fuck out, So far, that's been keeping me pretty safe. Knock on wood. Um, on the other hand, like I'm painfully aware that my body looks a certain way. Like, actually, just earlier, I was having a little bit of dysphoria because, as I've mentioned, I have this kind of dad bod, and in the kinds of fitness clothes that I used to like to wear, they really accentuated like feminine curves. And so I feel weird about going to the gym in some of my old gym clothes nowadays. And in particular, earlier today, I was wearing a set of like tight gym shorts and just noticing that the way that they tug in at my waist kind of gives me this weird bowling pin shape that I was just like really not here for. Um, so I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm hopeful that by working out and by trying to go for a body recomposition, I will not only regain some of my strength that I've lost, which has been its own kind of thing, but I will also get a body that I am happier with. I've been noticing like changes in like my boobs. Body fat redistribution is still kind of happening for me. Um, with that, like fat tissue is still kind of continuing to leave my breasts, and I'm pretty sure if I make an effort to build up my chest, then I can possibly even get away without having a shirt on. You know, worst case scenario, I'm like, oh, gynecomastia, it's a thing, and people hopefully leave me alone. Um, I do have a happy trail that is still kind of happily, pun intended, growing. And other than that, oh, my mustache is kind of coming in more so. Like you can sort of see where it's like gray up here, and that is still like very baby hairs. Like you can't really see them when they're grown out. So I've been shaving them in the hopes that that myth about hairs growing in darker and longer will come true. My thought is because they're still darkening and they're still becoming thicker, that that will actually be a thing that works for me. Um, chosen name shenanigans. Yeah, pretty much everyone in my family is using my chosen name, other than those I'm not out to, and my parents. So there's that. Um, one thing that's been making it really difficult to assert myself is that I'm pretty deep with codependency with my folks, and it just makes it very hard to defend myself and to assert my right to be called what I want to be called, and to tell people who say otherwise to go pound sand. I have never conceived to do that thing some trans people do of like refusing to answer to their old name. It just, I don't know. I'm so used to just trying to go with things and get past that uncomfortable moment when somebody gets it wrong, rather than like correcting them every single time, because I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be a burden or like the stick in the mud in the room. But in talking about my name and like my transition with some people, like I had the fortune of being with my favorite uncle last week and his family, and talking about my name and the fact that it's legally changed. Like I find myself frequently having shame when I mention it, but trying to embrace that shame and lean into it and realize that just because like my body and brain are telling me run away, like doesn't mean that that's actually accurate to what I should be doing. Um, so yeah, here we are a year later. I have changed my name. I have changed my legal gender. I have facial hair. I have a happy trail. I have had significant body fat redistribution. My muscle mass is more prominent, but not necessarily like indicative that I am stronger. But that is something I'm working on. And my voice has gotten a little deeper. I have a baby Adam's apple, which you can't really. Oh wait, yeah, there it is. Which is slowly growing in. My voice cracks sometimes now, which I was very excited for months ago, and now here we are. And also, I have no idea what to do with this mop of hair. I've been thinking that I want to grow it out now that I pass a little bit better, but it looks goofy when I part it. I mean, like, look at this nonsense. So if anybody has any style recommendations for growing out this weird curly mess, I'm all yours. But I think that's about it. Um, a year later, I am sort of out to my parents, but really not. A year later, I am primarily using men's restrooms or gender neutral when available. Um, a year later, I can pee standing up, which is maybe something that I should talk about in another video in more detail. But it's pretty exciting for me to be able to use like urinals and things like that. Um, and yeah, here we are. It's been a wild ride. Thanks for watching, and thanks for bearing with me if you've been watching my videos over the past several months. Um, I know the staccato schedule and lengthy duration of my videos may make them a little bit of a challenge to watch, but I'm hopeful that there's some useful and good information in there. So hope you'll stay tuned for next time when hopefully I'll have a few more mustache hairs to speak of, and my hair won't be such a terrible, terrible mess. Until next time, fare thee well.